Welcome my adventurers to a journey through the ancient annals of Azeroth, where the rich tapestry of history unfolds. Today, we delve into tales of the founding of Quel'thalas, witnessing the Highborne's struggle against blizzards, trolls, and their own vulnerabilities. In same time, a cataclysmic event in Northrend crystallized Moonsong. Fast forward to another era, as Fandral Staghelm's bid to counter saronite births Andrassil, ultimately leading to its felling by the Cenarion Circle and the unwitting initiation of the Emerald Nightmare. Join us as we unravel the epochs of Azeroth's history in this enthralling exploration. Far from the thick forests of Ashenvale, Dathramar Sunstrider and the Highborne kept looking for a new home in the Eastern Kingdoms. They followed magical trails, searching for the meeting point of ley lines their scouts had seen in the north. The Highborne's journey unexpectedly became harsh. A fierce blizzard stopped the elves for nearly a month as they traveled, with no way to go forward or escape from the mountain passes. The Highborne quickly realized just how vulnerable they had become without the Well of Eternity. For the first time in memory, they began to die of starvation. The compassion of some primitive humans in the mountains saved the expedition from perishing in the winter's fury. Once the storm lifted, the Highborne forged ahead, shaken but determined to find a new home. As they approached the land, the scouts had found hope warmed their weary hearts. Verdant woodlands covered the terrain and the ground crackled with potent lines of magic. But the elves soon discovered that another race also called this region home: the barbaric Amani trolls. The Highborne's arrival angered the trolls, who harbored a bitter hatred for elves from the days of Queen Ashera. The Amani sent raiding parties immediately, and the Highborne learned to fear troll ambushes in the dense forests. The elves stubbornly moved forward, using their magical abilities to defeat any Amani in their path. Soon, the trolls learned to tread cautiously, fostering mutual enmity. Despite the trolls' ferocity, the elves finally reached the nexus of ley lines. Powerful arcane energy converged in the vibrant forests, and that time Dathramar declared that this was where they would begin their civilization anew. Before his followers, Dathramar revealed something hidden during the journey: a vial with enchanted waters from the original Well of Eternity. Just before the Highborne were exiled from Mount Hyjal, Dathramar secretly took one of Illidan's Stormridge's remaining vials from the custody of the Night Elves. Dathramar poured the vial into a small lake at the Nexus, and a brilliant fount of energy poured through Azeroth's skies. In honor of Dathramar and his quest to reignite their culture, the Highborne named it the Sunwell. Thereafter the Highborne abandoned their traditional moon worship, drawing strength from the sun. In time, they became known as High Elves, and the arcane power available to them increased significantly. Many proclaimed Dathramar had brought them salvation. They named their new land Quel'thalas, or High Home, declaring it would surpass the Night Elf civilization and stand as a monument. The trolls disagreed, because the High Elves built their new kingdom atop ancient Amani ruins, considered hallowed ground by the trolls. Outnumbered more than 10 to 1, the Amani fiercely struggled to drive the invaders away. The High Elves, using their newfound power, barely held off the trolls' assaults. Dathramar himself led almost every battle against the fierce Amani. Bit by bit, the elves carved out the borders of their kingdom, securing a new home, paid for in the blood of their kin. Many High Elves grew wary of their use of arcane magic, fearing it could attract the Burning Legion to Azeroth again. Dathramar sent his most powerful arcanists to find a solution. Over decades, they built Bandai Noriel, the gatekeeper in the High Elven tongue. a barrier preventing others from detecting the elves' use of arcane magic and frightening away the superstitious Amani. The trolls eventually retreated to their temple city of Zolomon, opting to ambush elven convoys beyond the magic barrier, rather than launching a full-scale assault. An elite group of High Elf Rangers emerged to combat this threat. Inside Quel'thalas, civilization thrived. Unafraid of using magic, the High Elves created marvelous works, and bathed their land in eternal spring. Their capital Silvermoon City became a shining monument to the Elves' ancient empire. With the new empire established, Dathramar stepped down as leader. His bloodline inherited a kingdom of peace and prosperity. However, this era ended when Dathramar's great-grandson Anasterion took leadership, facing war with the trolls once again. While Quel'thalas prospered, Highborne communities worldwide faced struggles for survival. In the city of Fandral, one such community of Highborne inhabited a repository of arcane relics and artifacts. Once part of the Night Elf Empire, Fandral stood in the northern reaches of Kalimdor. After the Sundering fractured Azeroth into multiple landmasses, Fandral found itself in the frigid heart of a new and harsh continent called Northrend. Isolated from their cousins in Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms, the Fandral Highborne grappled with total seclusion. Their distance from the second well of eternity exposed them to diseases and ailments. Unlike Dathramar's followers, the Fandral Highborne lacked vials of the well's waters and had no means to create a surrogate power source. For centuries, they searched the surrounding Moonsong Forest for a way to sustain themselves. During this time, they observed the blue dragonflight crystallizing living things and drawing power from them. Although the dragons acted out of curiosity, the elves saw it as a way to end their suffering. Efforts to interact with the dragons were ignored or met with hostility. In desperation, a group of Highborne sorcerers infiltrated the Blue Flight's lair, the Nexus. While successfully learning the dragons' techniques, greed led them to pilfer powerful relics, triggering magical wards and sending the blue dragons into a frenzy. Though the thieves escaped, they knew retribution was imminent. That day arrived when dozens of blue dragons descended on Fandral, enraged by the theft of their relics. Desperate, elven sorcerers gathered on an icy cliff overlooking Moonsong. They decided to use the stolen techniques, hoping to crystallize a part of the forest and wield its energies as a weapon against the dragons. The spell went awry. The Highborne's reckless casting caused a blinding explosion visible even from Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms. The energy instantly crystallized the entire Moonsong Forest, sparing only the blue dragons who sensed the impending disaster. Every other living creature in the region had their physical forms shattered. Although their spirits endured, warped by the potent spell, they were cursed to wander the haunted land now known as Crystalsong Forest. When the Sundering wreaked havoc on Azeroth, the imprisoned old gods felt the tectonic turmoil, weakening the prisons crafted by their keepers. This cataclysmic event heightened the awareness of these malevolent entities to new, deadly degrees. Over the ensuing millennia, corruption emanated from the damaged old gods' prisons, gradually seeping to the world's surface. Northrend, home to Yogg-Saron's imprisonment, experienced severe effects, with festering blooms of a strange new mineral called saronite, spreading throughout the land and draining life from native flora and fauna. Upon discovering saronite, a group of druids from the Cenarion Circle aimed to eradicate it. They believed that similar to the World Tree's life-giving energies healing Mount Hyjal's lands, another great tree could do the same in Northrend. Fandral Staghelm, the group's leader, became obsessed with this idea. Some advised consulting the dragon aspects, who had allowed Andrassil to flourish, but Staghelm, feeling the urgency, acted without their guidance or the Cenarion Circle's approval. Saronite was spreading unchecked throughout Northrend and even in other parts of the world. Rather than waste time in endless debates, Staghelm moved to act without consulting the aspects or the rest of the Cenarion Circle. Fandral and his closest followers secretly cut 6 enchanted branches from the boughs of Andrassil. They planted these branches in regions where saronite blooms had emerged, including Cenarion, Crystalsong Forest, Quel'thalas, and 2 areas in the eastern kingdoms that later became Duskwood and the hinterlands. The branches quickly took root and became new trees. Together, they acted like conduits, channeling the powers of the Emerald Dream into the waking world, strengthening the nearby wildlife, and scouring the saronite deposits. The last and greatest branch became Andrassil, or Crown of the Snow, in Northrend, bringing immediate benefits by halting saronite's spread and revitalizing the wildlife. Learning of the unauthorized planting, Malfurion and the Cenarion Circle were furious but acknowledged the plan's apparent success. For decades, Andrassil stood over Northrend, seemingly thriving. Bloody battles erupted between the Tonka and the forest nymphs of Northrend, 2 races not known for their warring ways. The fighting was sudden and shockingly vicious, filled with barbarism and unspeakably vile acts. Cenarion Circle launched an expedition to investigate the source of the violence. The Cenarion Circle investigated and discovered Andrassil's roots had reached Yogg-Saron's prison, infusing the tree with corrupt energies, driving all living creatures in the area to madness. The Cenarion Circle knew that, without the blessing of the aspects, Andrassil was vulnerable to corruption. They were also aware that there was no way to spare the world tree or ease its suffering. The Cenarion Circle sorrowfully decided that the only recourse was to destroy Andrassil. With heavy hearts, they felled the great tree. It slammed down onto the icy surface of Northrend with a deafening boom that echoed even through the ethereal forests of the Emerald Dream. Forever after, the Druids would refer to the fallen world tree as Andrassil, or Broken Crown. Although killing Andrassil had been a heartbreaking task, the Cenarion Circle was pleased it had stopped the growth of saronite. Unbeknownst to the Druids, something dark had taken root in the Emerald Dream. Yogg-Saron had used the trees planted by Fandral as a doorway into the dream. A doorway through which the other old gods could grasp the ethereal domain as well. Small seeds of corruption were spread throughout Azeroth's realm. In time, these seeds polluted the dreamways, and this marked the beginning of what would become known as the Emerald Nightmare. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Azeroth's intricate history. Your thoughts and insights are invaluable, so please share them in the comments below. To my dedicated viewers, your support means the world, and if you haven't yet, consider hitting the subscribe button. Until our next episode, wishing each of you, my fantastic audience, nothing but the best.